While all eyes is focused on the FOMC meeting taking place today, on the other side of the world, there's another meeting taking place where Russia and China have decided to announce the need for an independent financial infrastructure. Let's talk about this. Okay, so I want to take a quick minute. Some article I came across this morning. Of course, I have to talk about it because it's right in line with what I've been talking about for several years now on the rethinking the dollar concept. And so as we're approaching the end of the current global monetary paradigm, the next infrastructure is being set up. And so it looks like as of today, due to all the sanctions and all the jawboning back and forth between the East and the West, Russia and China, Xi and Putin, who are going to be considered lifelong politicians at some point, because of course Xi Jinping has, I think, a life term for his presidency there, and as well as Russia with Putin, he's looking to do another 10 or 15 years or something like that. I've done videos on that in the past. But the article today from RT talks about the meeting and just gives a little bit of detail as to what is the next move for Russia and China. But then again, it's very interesting how Russia and China are the two leading global powers that's leading the way, but yet then again, a decade ago when they formed the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and South Africa, that infrastructure there was intended to be the I guess the next monetary world order, but due to a lot of events with explosions in China and all types of other things, and of course this current global pandemic, that's been derailed or it's been on pause. But my anticipation is that with the announcement of this new need for a financial infrastructure, which will be basically be the base layer of what they planned on building upon, it's not going to have anything to do with the petrodollar system, i.e. the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar. So I want to read quickly just a little bit from this article here that came out today. It's entitled Kremlin Reveals New Independent Russian Chinese Financial System. And to give you an idea what's going on, it says Russia and China will develop shared financial structures to enable them to deepen economic ties in a way that foreign states will be unable to influence. It says the move appears to be a response to a series of warnings that the Western nations could push to disconnect Russia from the Brussels SWIFT financial system. It says the payment platform underpins the vast majority of international transactions. During the talks today, Russian President Putin and Chinese counterpart Xi called for increasing the share of national currencies in mutual settlements and expanding cooperation to provide Russian and Chinese investors with access to stock markets. And then it talks about here, Yuri Yushchenko, Putin's foreign policy advisor, was quoted as saying, particular attention was paid to the need to intensify efforts to form an independent financial infrastructure to service trade operations between Russia and China. So there you have it, independent financial infrastructure. That is three words that they will live in infamy throughout history as to how the Federal Reserve petro system ended. But what I find to be most important is that outside of this information here, which is just the first step, I think, of many to come, this could be heading into 2022, that switch that might be flipped on that I've been talking about for quite some time now as to how China and Russia will take all the partnerships, all the currency swaps, all the agreements, all the infrastructure they've been setting up throughout the last decade plus, and actually cut on a light switch, which basically forced the world to recognize and acknowledge that the dollar is no longer needed and required to be the underpinning for the old infrastructure system, which is based upon the SWIFT. And so regardless of what happens to FOMC, that's just all a cover-up to get us towards that next world order. And of course, in between that's going to be a lot of pain, because in order to pull that off, that means everything denominated in the Federal Reserve notes will have to go through a readjusting period or a heavy devaluation, as the Western Hemisphere will look to use the digital ID system to bring in the CBDC works that they're trying to actually accomplish. But outside of that, how will this actually be pulled off? Gold is going to be the centerpiece of it. So there's an article that came out earlier this week in regards to how much gold Russians have been accumulating, and it was entitled The Gold Rush. And Russians reportedly buying record amounts of precious metals since 2014. And so for those that may not be aware, you might be new to the channel, I've been talking about Russia, China, gold, and all that stuff like that because it is the key components for the next global monetary system. And so for those that might be interested in getting a quick synopsis of what I call a dollarcation, I put together this visual aid here several years ago, basically give the entire timeline of what we call a dollar and how it would eventually end or be shifted into the BRICS nation, which you can see on this visual aid here. So the BRICS, BRICS, and then of course we know India has been accumulating lots of metals. We know Brazil has been accumulating lots of metals. We know South Africa is rich in natural resources, i.e. gold and minerals and silvers, you name it. So it's looking like they're going to be ramping up their activities towards building that new independent financial infrastructure. And of course, in order to establish trust among those nations, you're going to have something at the ground level to provide trust. And of course, it's going to be gold. So while all the digital distractions are taking place, all the MIT, Harvard, Ivy League boys are encouraging people to go towards a digital route, the central banks, whether we like them or not, they are the ones that are in charge of monetary policy, which then establishes how the currencies operate within these nations here. And they've already chosen to use gold. So the goal is by Michael Saylor and all these people talking about dump gold, gold is not this, and get rid of your gold. For those that buy into that, you're going to be selling it. And guess who's going to be buying it? The central banks, for what they have planned for decades ahead. So anyway, just wanted to share my quick thoughts real quick, just let you know what's going on around the world. So while the FOMC is happening over here, new independent financial infrastructure is looking to be set up over there. And of course, who's going to be stuck in the middle? The average Joe. So it's important to recognize what's going on, realize that time is dwindling, and you want to make sure financially you're on the right side of history. And it has nothing to do with digits on a screen. It's all about what you can hold and what you can feel and what's been proven, tried, and tested for centuries. And of course, it has to do with getting your weight up. So a couple things I want to leave you with. 4 things to do. Take this video, share it with your family and friends so people can find out there's more going on than what we're being told. Second thing, on the rethinkingthedollar.com website is an opportunity for you to test your dollar IQ. 10 simple questions makes a world of difference to get people to thinking and really questioning what's going on. 3, download this report here that I put out years and years ago. It gives you a synopsis as what's been taking place surrounding the dollar. And then 4, click the thumbs up button, subscribe, and make sure you tune in for the next update. And make sure to leave your thoughts down below. Appreciate you.